The incoming Donald Trump administration is expected to bring a dramatic shift in U.S. foreign policy, marking a significant break from the post-World War II multilateralism that has characterized American diplomacy for decades. While many are focused on the domestic implications of this shift, the effect it will have on Europe and particularly its relationship with China cannot be understated. The administration is likely to bring about a new era of U.S.-Europe relations that will redefine global alliances and economic dynamics. The ramifications for Europe are immense, as it faces both economic and security challenges and must navigate a shifting global order with one eye on its troubled relationship with the United States and the other on the rising power of China. One of the most profound consequences of the incoming Trump administration is the growing gulf between Europe and the United States. This divergence will likely be marked by an end to the current American commitment to NATO and European security. Trump's insistence that U.S. allies should shoulder a greater share of their defense spending, alongside his apparent readiness to reduce American involvement in global security issues, places significant strain on Europe. Europe has already invested considerable political, military, and economic capital in the ongoing Ukraine war, but under a Trump presidency, the U.S. may pull back from supporting Ukraine to the degree Europe expects, leaving the European powers to navigate the crisis largely on their own. If the U.S. retreats from its global role, Europe will be forced to reconsider its approach to its security and defense strategies. Beyond defense, the incoming administration is expected to impose more trade restrictions on European imports, further complicating the economic relationship between the two regions. U.S. GDP per capita has grown at a much faster pace than the Eurozone's since the 2008 financial crisis, and this widening gap has placed additional pressure on European economies. Europe has struggled to match the innovation and competitiveness of the United States, especially in high-tech sectors, such as the development of major tech giants. The European Union's inability to foster homegrown technological champions is becoming increasingly evident, and the region finds itself at a distinct disadvantage in the global race for technological dominance. Politically, Europe is divided, with a rising far-right movement threatening to undermine unity. In short, Europe faces both economic stagnation and political fragmentation, and the prospect of an unpredictable and less supportive U.S. makes its future even more uncertain. In light of these challenges, Europe may need to rethink its attitude toward China. While Europe has traditionally viewed China with skepticism, particularly over issues such as Hong Kong, Xinjiang, and human rights, this approach may no longer be tenable. The growing isolationist tendencies of the U.S. under Trump's leadership mean that Europe can no longer afford to stand on the sidelines or remain indifferent to China's rise. In fact, Europe may need China more than ever before, both economically and politically. The United States' attempts to isolate China, particularly in the realm of technology, have placed European governments in a difficult position. A prime example of this is the pressure placed on European countries regarding the use of Chinese 5G technology. Many European nations have capitulated to U.S. demands and excluded Chinese firms like Huawei from their 5G networks, but the reality is that Europe is increasingly reliant on China's technological expertise. If Europe is to build a stronger relationship with China, it will need to distance itself from U.S. efforts to create a technological divide and engage with China on more constructive terms. A growing number of European leaders, including the new UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, have adopted a more pragmatic stance toward China. Starmer's refusal to engage in moral grandstanding against China, focusing instead on economic and environmental cooperation, offers a glimpse of a potential new European approach. This shift is important because it acknowledges that China's rise has fundamentally altered the global power dynamic. Europe must respect Chinese policies, even if it disagrees with them, and recognize that China is no longer an economic inferior, but a peer in many respects. If Europe wants to strengthen its relationship with China, it must stop treating China as an unruly child, and instead engage as an equal partner. Europe's historically condescending attitude toward China, viewing it as an economic backwater, is increasingly anachronistic. A prime example of this outdated thinking is Europe's current crisis in the electric vehicle sector. China has become the world leader in EV production, and Europe, once thought to be a leader in green technology, is now playing catch-up. The European Union's failure to develop competitive EV technology, combined with its reliance on traditional automakers, has left the region vulnerable to the more innovative and cost-effective production methods that China has mastered. In fact, China's technological superiority in EVs, battery production and the electric supply chain highlights Europe's need for greater collaboration with China in order to remain competitive. Raising tariffs on Chinese EVs is not a solution to Europe's crisis. Instead, Europe must learn to cooperate with China's EV and battery industries if it hopes to revitalize its car industry. This need for cooperation extends beyond the EV sector. China has taken the lead in several other areas of green technology, and Europe, once a pioneer in these fields, now finds itself in a reactive position. Europe will need Chinese investment and expertise if it is to remain competitive in the global green tech race. Whether it is in battery technology, solar power, or other areas of renewable energy, China's investment in these technologies presents Europe with a critical opportunity for collaboration. The reality is that China's long-term vision, investment in infrastructure and innovation in green technologies have placed it ahead of Europe, and Europe can no longer afford to ignore this. In the past, technology transfer from China was crucial for the country's modernization. Today, the tables have turned, and it is Europe that must seek to learn from China. This shift in the global balance of power requires European firms to seek partnerships with Chinese companies, embrace Chinese investment, and actively learn from China's model of technological development. If Europe is to regain its competitive edge, it must abandon outdated prejudices and adopt a new, more cooperative approach to China. The question remains, can European attitudes shift to accommodate this new reality? Time will tell, but one thing is clear. Europe must be willing to confront its old biases and recognize that its future success depends on forging a more pragmatic and mutually beneficial relationship with China. It will require abandoning long-standing prejudices, acknowledging China's rise, and rethinking the dynamics of global power. Only then can Europe hope to navigate the new global order effectively.